Greetings fellow Dungeon Defenders, Jayla here. I've been getting a lot of questions on how to do specific builds for specific classes. So I've decided I'm going to make a video for it, and for this video I'm going to cover how to build a DPS monk, since that's what I'm in the process of doing myself right now. So the first thing I want to say is a lot of the advice I'm going to give will be based on my opinion and experiences. I don't claim that my way is the best, but it works for me and I've seen it do well for others too. So let's start with probably the most aspect of a build, which is the stat points. It's really not too hard since you're pure DPS. I have 85 points into hero health, 100 into hero damage, 34 into move speed, and 80 into the hero boost ability. Now some people might put less into move speed and more into health, but I like being able to get across the map pretty quick. So the next thing we're going to worry about is gear, and the first piece I'd be worrying about getting is your pet. If you watch my videos on equipment tips, then you know that you want to get an animus, and you get an animus from the summit on insane mode. The criteria I had in mind for deciding what would be a good one for upgrading was fairly simple. It couldn't have any negatives, it needed at least 30 upgrades, and it needed a plus projectile. So if you have an animus that meets all those, I'd say go ahead and max it out. How you're going to want to upgrade it is put all the points into its damage, except when it allows you to increase its shots per second or its projectiles. You want to make sure at the end it should have 6 shots per second and plus 2 projectiles. Other than that, put all the points into its damage, and your animus can probably out DPS you at this point if you don't have a decent weapon. So the reason I said get an animus and max it out first is because I'm also going to recommend not to respec full DPS until you have a weapon worth upgrading. Otherwise you won't be that useful, but since you have a fully upped animus, you'll still be able to put out a decent chunk of damage. You can see mine hits for about 28k without hero boost, and with hero boost 61k-ish. I've seen him go a little higher, 67, there we go. Anyways, speaking of a good weapon, that's also going to be a bit of subjective and dependent on how much mana you have to spend. I'll break it down into 3 categories. So the first is that if you're poor and don't have very good gear, then I recommend just using a dragon-crested glaive, which you get from beating the summit on medium or hard mode. If it has 25 upgrades or more, go ahead and use that. Upgrade its fire damage, and then until you can get something better, then you'll be good to go with that, I suppose. If you're about average and can solo spooktacular medium or hard mode, then go ahead and use the gyre that you get from doing that. I'd say grind it until you can get one with 30 or more upgrades, then max out its range damage and projectile count, and you'll have a pretty decent weapon actually. So lastly, if you're rich or you can run insane spook, then you'll want the Nosferatu, which is what I'm using here. You get it from doing, like I said, insane spooktacular. You want to keep doing it until you get one with at least 30 upgrades, I would say. The one I'm using here has 29, but it's actually not mine. Friend letting me borrow it. He was actually on the DPS video. Anyways, I would personally go for a goal one with at least 30 upgrades, max out its range damage and projectile count, and that's pretty much going to be the best weapon that you can get as of right now. So the next thing I want to talk about is armor. Just going by level requirement, the order goes leather, mail, chain, plate, and then pristine. So generally it's also thought that the order is the same as far as quality goes. Personally, I haven't noticed a big difference. I've seen godly pristine and godly leather, and the bonuses don't seem very different, but I could have just not been seeing the right pristine. Anyways, if you get a full set of pristine, go for that, but if not, just get a full set of whatever you can. The main point being just make sure you have a set. So I'll go into 3 categories again for this one. If you're poor, then you can probably make do with any quality from amazing to legendary. As long as it's got at least 10 upgrades, go ahead and max it out. Just put all the points into hero damage. If you're an average player, you can probably make do with legendary, but godly is of course better, and I would want at least 20 upgrades. Again, just max out hero damage. And lastly, if you're rich, you of course aren't going to settle for anything less than godly, and I'd want a minimum of 25 upgrades, but would prefer 30 or more. Also, with this many upgrades, I'm actually going to recommend upgrading the item's physical damage resistance as much as it'll let you, and then the hero damage. This way we'll not only be able to put out the damage, but take it as well. Again, that's just my opinion. If you want to go all into hero damage, go ahead. But for me, I think I may even put some into fire resistance, just so I can raffle stomp the dragon on the summit. As you can see, my gear right here right now isn't very good at all. Like I said, I'm in the process of making a DPS monk. He's not completed. But that's about all you need to know for the armor. And I'm pretty sure I covered everything you need to know. One more thing I'd like to mention is your role when playing with others. It may sound obvious, but specifically what you should be doing is taking care of problem points, places where towers are struggling, or where the largest amount of mobs spawn. Um, Also, as soon as an ogre spawns, run and take care of it. A lot of people forget to do that, but if you're the DPS, that's definitely something you should be taking care of. Other than that, playing DPS is really as simple as it sounds. You run in, you kill stuff. It's pretty much easy mode. Alright guys, well that about wraps it up. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. And until next we meet, fare thee well.